And hello YouTube, this is GSmaniamsmart and I'm today on a brand new video for Gaming with GS. And today we're on Guild Wars 2. We're taking a break from Super Adventure Box. I will have the World 2 Zone 3 all hidden rooms done probably tomorrow, maybe Sunday. It depends how I feel. And we'll see. We'll definitely get it out though, so don't worry, that is coming. But today I want to go over how to craft your Ascended weapon. I already have a guide out on how to craft your Ascended armor, and that's sort of outdated. I will be updating that very soon, but I don't have a guide yet on Ascended weapons. And I know a lot of you have liked and appreciated the video I made on the Ascended armor, because I had it very organized. I had a list for you guys. In the description I had all the materials you need, the steps you need to craft it, and I went over all that. So I'm hoping you appreciate this video as well, because we're going to go over the weapon. So as you see, I already have my Ascended staff here, Zoja's Spire with Berserker stats. And essentially, the weapon is a lot easier to make than the armor. Now, I crafted my armor before I crafted my weapon, which was brutal. I suggest if you're just starting Ascended crafting, you start with the weapon because it's so much easier. There's tons, like 10 times the amount of materials you need for the armor than you do for the weapon. So, anyway. Step 1 in crafting your armor is to basically get one of your professions to 500. Now this can either be weaponsmithing, this can either be huntsman, or it can be artificing, depending on what weapon you're using. If you're using a staff or a scepter, then artificing. If you're using a great sword or an axe, then weaponsmithing. If you're using a great bow, a long bow, I'm saying great bow, a long bow, a short bow, pistols, rifles, then huntsman. So one of those three needs to be at 500. Now a lot of people get to 400, 450, and then they kind of get stuck because nothing else gives experience anymore for the easy recipes. If you're still at 0 or you haven't crafted at all, I will leave a link in the description that gives you a site that guides you to 400 crafting. Once you get to 400 or 450 though, or say you're stuck at 430 or 440, whatever it may be, it can be kind of difficult and costly, because the only thing you can craft from here on out are exotic weapons, and that's how you're supposed to get from 400 to 500, by crafting exotic weapons. So the first step, and we're actually going to head out of game real quick and look at my notepad, because I'm going to show you the steps here, and it's a lot easier to explain and for you to follow. So as you see for step 1, you need to get crafting profession to 500. Now how you do this is you can either buy the inscriptions, because you'll notice that for a lot of the weapons you can craft, you need an inscription. So to buy inscriptions, you can either get them from the trading post and buy them all, or you can just simply craft them and get the materials you need. But those are tier 6 materials, which can also be hard to gather and can also be hard to buy. And your third option is to do dungeons, because dungeons give you dungeon tokens, and your dungeon tokens are in your wallet, in your inventory. I'll show them to you when we go back into game. And you want to turn these tokens of currency into exotic weapons. Now, each dungeon has a set of weapons you can buy, and these weapons you can then salvage for a chance to get the inscription. So instead of having to buy the inscription, or instead of having to craft the inscription, which can be quite costly, you can just salvage the inscription from a dungeon weapon, and then you can easily craft exotics and get your crafting up really high, especially if you have a crafting booster. So just be aware that don't salvage armor, because that will give you insignias, and that is only good for Ascended armor. You want to salvage weapons so you get inscriptions. Now I know here it says craft exotics with insignias, but I have to change it to inscriptions, because this is basically the same steps I gave you in the gear for Ascended armor. Now apart from that, you also want to gather obsidian materials for refinement, and these things include bloodstone dust, dragonite ore, imperial fragments. You get a lot of these from World vs. World. You get a lot of them from doing world bosses, from chests. They're all over the place. You probably have tons and tons of stacks in them if you haven't been throwing them away. Now here, and by the way, all this that I'm going over in this notepad is in the description, so if you want to just copy and paste it onto your own notepad file, it'd be cool. Now, when you're looking for specific weapons to buy from the dungeon vendor, you need to look for specific stats, because you can only salvage inscriptions that are non-craftable. Basically, shaman inscriptions are non-craftable. Soldier, Rabbit, Magi, and Dire and Cavalier inscriptions are also non-craftable. So all non-craftable inscriptions you can salvage from weapons. And you want to look for these stat types. So a lot of dungeons have different stat types. Just see which ones match up, condition, toughness, or vitality, and then buy those. So we're going to head back into the game so I can show you an example real quick. So here's the dungeon vendor. And if you want to know your currencies, you press your inventory, go to the wallet here, and all the way at the bottom here, here's all your currencies. Ascalon Tears is for Ascalon Catacombs dungeon. This one is for the mansion. I forget what the name is. The manor. This one's for Twilight Arbor, and so on and so forth. Now, if you go to Lion's Arch here, the dungeon vendor is right here in this corner. And just go ahead and talk to him here and say you want to buy weapons. And let's go to Citadel Flame, for example. Now these give you power, precision, ferocity. So these are obviously berserker stats. You don't want to buy these because they won't really allow you to salvage, because they won't give you a non-craftable. And so these you wouldn't want to buy. So let's go ahead and check another dungeon perhaps. Let's check Ascalon Catacombs. And precision, vitality, and healing power right here. These are actually Magi's. If you go back to the list that I gave you with the definitions of like each stat's name, these are Magi's. So here you could actually buy this weapon, salvage it with a Black Lion salvage kit or with a Mystic salvage kit. You want to use those two because they're the highest chance to get the inscription. If you use anything lower, you'll have a pretty low chance of getting the inscription. So be aware, it's not a definite you'll get it. There is some chance involved, but the higher your salvage kit level, the easier you'll get this. So when you salvage something like this, you may get a Magi's inscription, and then you can use that Magi's inscription to basically craft a weapon. For example, if we go into my crafting tab here, and this is Artificing, and as you see, the Magi's trident, here's a Magi inscription. You can get this off of one of the Ascalon Catacombs weapons with those specific stats. And these are easy. This right here is easy to get, and you probably have tons of globs of ectoplasm already. And this isn't too hard to craft. All you need is ore chalum ingots. So the main price, the hefty price, is this right here. And hopefully you have enough globs of ectoplasm. If not, then well, you have to use some money as well. But then you can start crafting these, and you can get your artificing to 500. Now another thing you want to do, once you get to 450 at least, say you're having trouble getting to 450, just do all the exotic crafting. Say you've reached 450 now. What you want to do from here on now is start crafting these Imperial Stars, the Dragonite Ingots, and the Bloodstone Bricks. Now you'll see that we need lots of Imperial Fragments, we need lots of Dragonite Ore, and we need lots of Bloodstone Dust. On the list you'll see we need 500 of each. So you have plenty to craft here. Obsidian shards are very easy to get now. They're pretty much drop everywhere. So you also get experiences from this. So every time you craft this, your experience bar raises. So you could actually potentially get to 500 just by doing this, but you probably won't. So you may have to craft a few more exotics once you basically reach the point where you don't get much experience from these anymore. But start collecting some of this stuff. Start collecting these obsidian refinement materials so you can start crafting these, because you will need these for a vision crystal. You'll see when I go over the list on the notepad file in a second. So once you basically have gathered your obsidian materials, and once you've gotten your profession to 500, we can go on to step 2. And step 2 involves ectoplasm refinement. Now, you should have already done all of your obsidian refinement, which is crafting those Imperial Stars, Dragonite Ingots, and Bloodstone Bricks. You should have done all of that. Now you can start doing ectoplasm refinement, and be aware there is a daily limit for this. You cannot craft tons of these at the same time. You can only craft one a day. So I encourage you to start this as early as possible. If we go back into game, you see ectoplasm refinement. This is at 450 as well. You can start to craft this stuff at 450. So there's no need for you to wait until the very end to do this. You can do this at 450. Start gathering elderwood planks because you're going to need a lot of these. Start gathering more globs of ectoplasm. You're going to need lots of these globs of elder spirit residue. You're also going to need lots of lumps of mithrilium, right? That's what it's called, mithrilium. You're also going to need lots of those. So start gathering mithril ores. Start gathering more of these globs of ectoplasm. These right here you can buy from your profession master, from your crafting guy. He's right next to the crafting stations. He usually sells these. You need lots of these, and it can be kind of pricey, but it's relatively cheap compared to everything else. So this should be your second step. Your first step is get to 500, do your obsidian refinement. Step 2 is do your ectoplasm refinement, and that should definitely get you to 500, because this will also give you experience. So if you do your ectoplasm refinement, you do your obsidian refinement, there's a pretty high chance you can get to 500 without having to craft too many exotics, without having to do too many dungeons, and without having to have too many of the inscriptions salvaged from some of these weapons. So then we're on to step 3, and here's where things get a bit tough. Compared to the ascended armor, you need to craft 6 insignias, which means if we go down to our insignia, here it is. Well, this should actually be an inscription. It's not an insignia, because insignia is for armor. So apologies for that. It's inscription. You need to craft 1 inscription, and that's because if you're only using a 2-handed weapon, you need to craft 1 inscription. If you're using dual daggers, you'll need to craft 2 inscriptions. If you're using a focus and a scepter, you'll need to craft 2 inscriptions. Depending on how many weapons you're going to craft will depend on how many inscriptions you need. So just be aware, this list right here is basically defined by a 2-handed weapon and a staff, because realize these are all the things you need. You basically need to craft your ascended weapon. You need an inscription, which is what we're going to go over right here, which is all of these materials. This is the same for all professions. No matter what weapon you have, no matter what profession you have, all of these materials are the same. So you'll need 1 inscription. If you have 2 weapons, you'll need 2 inscriptions. So you double everything on this list. You have to double. Instead of 450 elderwood logs, you'll need 900 elderwood logs for those 150 elderwood planks. And the parentheses is basically telling you what they're used for. You need 450 elderwood logs, so 450 elderwood logs to make 150 elderwood planks. You see that I have everything sort of here in a hierarchy. To make 1 ascendant inscription, you need 1 Delgamore steel, and to make 1 Delgamore steel, you need 3 Delgamore steel ingots. To make 3 Delgamore steel ingots, you need 3 lumps of mithrilium. To make 3 lumps of mithrilium, you need 300 mithril ore. If this confuses you a bit, if this hierarchy thing confuses you, you can go all the way down to the bottom where I have a complete list of all the things you'll need. In total, you will need 300 mithril ore, 17 globs of ectoplasm, and so on and so forth. 540 hardwood logs. Now, one thing I want to make you aware is that all of this, the ascended inscription, which you need, all the same for any weapon, for any profession, right? The 1 vision crystal, all the same for any weapon, any profession, right? Now, where things get a little more complicated is in the base components. So just realize that these materials here depend on what weapon you're making. This is based off of a staff. So if you're using a staff like I am, then lucky for you, this list is pretty accurate. Everything is accurate here for you. If you're creating a staff for your ascended weapon, you can 100% use this list. If you're using a greatsword though, you're not going to need 6 spirit wood planks. You're going to probably need some more Delgamore steel instead of spirit wood planks. So I have a link in the description as well for a chart that tells you how much you need of each. I'll leave it in the description. Just scroll down the wiki page. It'll tell you if you're creating a staff, you need so-and-so. If you're creating a bow, you need so-and-so. The details will be in the description. Just realize though that the totals at the bottom here do include this right here. So as you see here, 900 elderwood logs. We need that to make 6 spirit wood planks. If you're making a staff. If you're not making a staff, you obviously won't need 900 elderwood logs, which also means you won't need over 1,000 elderwood logs. You may need some more ore instead of all this wood. So anyway, here's the materials. Just, I know it's a lot to take in. I know it's very daunting. It can be confusing, but just take things 1 step at a time. Follow these steps right here. Step 3, step 4. Craft your inscription first. It's easier. The inscription takes the longest because look how many things you need. You need tons of these things. Craft your inscription first, and you also want to craft your vision crystal, which I should probably type in here too because we do need that as well. The vision crystal is also fairly easy, so these two are not very hard. Now if we go back in game, you'll see that for the staff, where's Zoja's staff? So here's Zoja's staff. As you see, here's the inscription that you need, as we went over on the document already. And you'll see that for the inscription, we need 10 globs of dark matter, which is also on the list at the bottom of the document. You need 1 Delgamore steel plated dowel, which, as you see, we need spirit wood planks, Delgamore steel ingots, and for spirit wood planks, we need all these logs, and it keeps going inwards and inwards. It's crazy. So yeah. And your ectoplasm refinement is where it comes in here. You do need ectoplasm refinement, like lumps of mithril, or for globs of elder spirit residue. You do need that for the spirit wood and for the Delgamore steel ingots. So just try to work your way from inward to outwards. You know, try to craft the inscription first. If the inscription is too daunting for you, then do the vision crystal. The vision crystal is very easy. The vision crystal you should be able to craft already as soon as you hit 500. And the reason why I say this is because all you need is the obsidian refinement. This stuff right here, you should have already crafted this at 450. Remember when we're using dragonite ore? Yeah, exactly. Remember when using imperial fragments here and when we're using bloodstone dust here? Yeah, your vision crystal is very easy to craft. You should be able to craft this in no time. The auger stone you can buy from the Mystic Forge, the lady by the Mystic Forge. She sells it for some spirit shards. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Once you have your vision crystal, you're 1/3 of the way there. Then I would recommend you do your inscription. And your inscription, as went over already, is all of this stuff. So what happens after that? What happens when you've created your 1 or 2 inscriptions, and what happens after you've created your vision crystal? Well, the rest is fairly easy. As you see here, for Zoja's Spire, you need a spirit wood shaft and a spirit wood head. So, like I said, for a greatsword, you may need a hilt and you may need a blade. So you may need a lot more steel, for example. You see, we only need spirit wood planks here. That's all we need. That's all we need. However, a sword may need more Delgamore steel. So, yeah. Anyway, if we go back to the crafting masters, and this is the last thing I want to go over real quick. Crafting masters are right here. You also need to buy these recipes. You need to buy the recipe for the weapon, and you need to buy the recipe for the inscription as well. And that was really weird. My character was like walking for a second. But for example, say I go to the armor smithing station here. Well, no, what's the closest weapon place? Is there weaponsmithing here? Weaponsmithing station here, right? And this guy's not even loaded yet. Weird. Alright, so say I talk to this weaponsmithing guy. You'll see here are the thermocalitic reagents, which you need a lot of these. And then here are the recipes. If you want to create a sword, if you want to create a shield or a mace, you need to buy these recipes. Yes, it costs you laurels and it costs you gold. And this is basically what will give you. This is basically what will give you this recipe, the main weapon recipe. You won't have this recipe. You won't have the Zoja's Spire staff until you buy it from the Artificing Master. You won't have Zoja's Greatsword until you actually buy it from this guy here. So just be aware you need to buy the recipe. And then apart from that, you also need to buy the insignia, the Ascended inscription. I keep saying insignia because I've tailored so much in this game. I'm just used to insignia. But you need to buy the inscription here, as you see. And you can pick what inscription you'd like. Once you buy this, it'll ask you what type of inscription do you want. Do you want Berserker inscription? Do you want Soldier's inscription? Do you want whatever type of stats you want? So all of your recipes you can buy from this guy. Your weapon recipe and your inscription recipe. Once you have that, just use your recipes and go into your crafting tab and just follow the steps that I gave you. I know it's a lot of materials, but trust me, get to 500, do your obsidian refinement, do your ectoplasm refinement every day, and then start gathering all these materials a little bit every day. Buy them on a trading post if you need to, and so on and so forth. And that's pretty much all I want to go over. It should be fairly easy enough, especially since you have the list at the bottom. Apologies for those of you who are not creating a staff. If you're creating a great sword or a sword, the last bit of that document, if we go to the document one more time, you'll see that step 4 is to craft your base components, and your base components is basically this right here. Like I said, there's a link in the description that tells you how much of each you need. This is for a staff only, this last section right here. So just be aware of that. Make sure that you basically add your own materials here to this list at the bottom. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm actually going to subtract this right here from this main list. So at least for those of you who aren't creating a staff, you can use this list and have it as a reliable source. And all you got to do then is add your own materials from the wiki here for this last part right here. So just add that to this. I'm going to go ahead and change this list so that this list is applicable for every weapon. Just be aware that you need to have this last part still. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's extremely important. I don't want you guys to buy 180 seasoned wood logs when you don't even need it because you're not creating a staff. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully I've gone over it well enough for you to understand. It is a very long process. The weapon is clearly not as long as the armor. The armor took me a month to make, while the weapon took me like a week to make. But if you don't have the gold to invest in it, it can take longer. If you don't have the time to invest in it, it can take longer. But in the end, I think it's worth it because you are getting the best stats in the game for the weapon. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you have any questions, any confusions, any comments, definitely leave in the comment section below. I'll be down there answering any questions you may have. If you're confused about some of the materials that you may need, leave it in the comment section. If you can't find your way around the wiki, I'll definitely help you out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. Plenty of other Guild Wars 2 content on the channel, and plenty more to come as well in the future. It'd be great to have you on board. And yeah, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching. I hope that this video helped you out in any way. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It'll really help me out. If you didn't like it, you can leave a comment below as well and give some feedback. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave them in the comments as well. And I usually try my best to answer those comments within the next 24 to 48 hours, depending on how busy I am. I also have plenty of other content on my channel about different gaming tutorials, as well as general gaming videos for Guild Wars 2, League of Legends, Minecraft, and any others that you may be interested in. So if you're interested in that type of stuff, check it out. And if you like what you see, you can subscribe too. Would really appreciate it. You can also check out my other channels and social medias as shown on the screen right now. And with that, thank you so much everyone, and this is GSmaniamsmart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.